Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. I am your host, Nash, and let's get into. First of all, it must be said that even though Haaland did not play much better week than the previous game week, with an average of 53, it shows incredible improvement over the previous week, which was like 41 or something. It was a tough week last week. So, what contributed to this? Well, the most obvious thing is that it was a very high-scoring game week. So many goals. Almost, I think there was only literally one clean sheet this weekend. Okay, sorry, there were two. I forgot about Wolves having played. I mean, there were two games where 7 goals were scored. And then even something strange happened yesterday. All the games ended with a scoreline of 2-1. How crazy is that? I don't think I've seen that before. Brighton, Forest 2-1. Fulham, Spurs 2-1. Man United, Palace 2-1. Arsenal, Chelsea 2-1. What are the odds of that? And one of the luckiest thing, and I'll start off with a stat. Over 700,000 managers had captained Haaland, but they had all captained, or rather vice-captained, Bruno Fernandes. And that tells you everything that you need to know about the game week. So Haaland missing was a blessing in disguise. And this is why it is important to set your vice-captain. There were so many deflected goals this game week. Oh my goodness, if you're a purist and you don't like deflected goals, it must have been so painful to see all of those deflections go. And then on the other end, there was just like the Brighton game where at least 2 of the goals were really, really good. Diego Gomez's goal was amazing. And then Morgan Gibbs-White, from the play to the finish, maybe best goal of the weekend, even though Iwobi scored a stunner. So, of course, if you had captained anybody from Villa, you did not do well. Or if you were banking on their defense to keep a clean sheet, you lost. Losing 2-0, at least now they have overtaken Derby. Shows you how bad the season Derby had. Or maybe just how unlucky they must have been. Because I feel like if you do 11, sometimes it could be your own just poor capacity. But also I think a lot of things have to go against you. There were red cards that shaped outcomes. Crystal Palace, once they got the red card, they couldn't win. Chelsea, once they got the red card, the game was pretty much over. Even though they did put up a good fight, but it's always tough with 10 men. So let's look at the games of the weekend. Let's start with the marquee game of the week. And that's so Arsenal take on Chelsea. Arsenal came out 2-1 winners, but it wasn't an easy game. Honestly, Chelsea gave a really good account of themselves. I thought it would be more. I watched, I think, the cup games, and I thought that Chelsea just didn't have it in them to give Arsenal a run for their money. But it was quite a competitive fixture. I think Chelsea should be proud. I think maybe if they didn't have the red card, maybe it would have been different. Arsenal do what they did best, and they killed Chelsea on the set pieces. When you look at the goal scorers, Saliba and Timber, corners, They just, you see, I don't know, a lot of people hate Arsenal for being corner FC, as they call it. But for me, it's like, if you discover something that you're good at, and it works all the time, and it's a legal move, do it. Until they figure out how to stop it. Continue. So Arsenal will continue scoring and defeating people with set pieces and corners until people start defending better. It's just that simple. When you're able to defend better, it will stop being a weapon. That's it. It's not this crazy thing. It's just if people figure out how to defend better, it will not be a secret weapon for Arsenal anymore. And when you stop that, you kill Arsenal. Or at least you force them to find a different loophole. That's all. So Timber and Saliba had the goals. And I was really happy because I had Gabriel, and Gabriel had the assist. I headed assist to Saliba. And it's very rare to see Saliba nowadays on the score sheet. It's quite interesting. A couple of years ago, you'd have thought Saliba was Arsenal's best defender. But now it's unquestionably Gabriel. And do you remember even those that fantasy season where Gabriel wasn't starting for no reason at all? Anyway, like I said, Gabriel had the assist for Saliba and Rice had the assist for Timber. Now, but Rice sort of picked up a knock and asked even to be substituted. So it is possible he won't play this coming game. Possible, not completely sure. Neto definitely won't play after the red card he got. So keep that in mind as you make your teams for tomorrow. Chelsea scored a goal that came straight from the corner. Reece James took it in and it came in off Nkapie. So basically, Arsenal defenders were involved in all of the goals. And it's like I told you guys last week, it's hard to trust Arsenal's defense. And so I had a triple defense. I've moved away from that. I have only one defender now. And I hope you are all doing the same. I mean, keeping Gabriel or Timber, whichever one is your preferred. But I think you should get off of Raya, should you have him. And pick who? Let's point anybody. It seems like nobody can keep a clean sheet. Maybe Donnarumma since he kept one, but it's tough. Gabriel got the 3 bonus points. Saliba got the 2 bonus points along with Reece James, who got 2. It was a good game. Moving on to the highest scoring game of the weekend. Now, of course, Liverpool beat West Ham 5-2 for 7 goals, and Burnley were beaten 4-3 for it to be 7 goals as well. However, I'm going to use the Burnley-Brentford game because it was just a much more competitive game. It was just, if you were watching both games, the Burnley-Brentford game was just the better watch. It was so competitive. And the funniest thing is that it didn't even start that way. It just started off with Brentford going up 3-0. And then Coyote scored an own goal. Coyote, by the way, was very unlucky in this game. There were so many deflections in this game. And they all involved Coyote. Anyway, so Mr. Thiago scores. Finally, I put him as my captain because I thought he would score in this game. And I was right, but it wasn't Bruno. But I didn't know. Anyway, Thiago scored, Shada scored, and Damsgaard scored. Not in that particular order. It was Damsgaard first, Thiago second, and Shada third. By halftime, they had scored 3. And so I was just thinking, okay, if this game can get to like 4, 5, 6, and Thiago can have a hat-trick, that would be amazing for me. It didn't quite happen. What ended up happening is that, Fleming. If you haven't seen Fleming's goal, just look at that pass for the header. Oh my goodness, this goal was so sweet. A beautiful floating cross. The header comes in, boom, keeper no chance. Anyway, Hannibal played really, really well. So Fleming scores, and Anthony scores some weird goal. Coyote scores some random own. I'm telling you, the goals Burnley scored were unfortunate. And then when it was 3-3, I was like, oh wow. And then all of a sudden it's 4-3. And honestly, Burnley's 4th goal should have been allowed. The marginalness of the offside that was called is ridiculous. And I heard Arsene Wenger asking for a new revision to the offside rule for VAR, and he's proposing something called a daylight offside, and which means, like, if you saw the Joao Pedro goal, the Joao Pedro assist to Delap, who scored the offside goal for Chelsea yesterday, that is a daylight offside, where it is clear that you're offside. There's no his foot is 1 centimeter over there. That's basically level. Basically, when it's not level, it should be allowed. And Burnley's goal should have stood for that reason. So anyway, that gets chopped off. And then in 90 plus, I don't know, 4 or 5, Brentford scored. Damsgaard comes in to the rescue. 4-3. And you can see all the heads going down. Then Mr. Barnes is on the pitch. He hasn't scored a goal since 2022. He gets in there and somehow he scores a goal and it's 4-4. But then he gets disallowed again. But this time, Valid, it hit his hand. So Hannibal had 2 assists. Anthony had 1. Ouattara, Henry, Vandenberg, and Damsgaard had the assists. So as you can see, it was everybody 8 in this game. Damsgaard, of course, got the 3 bonus points. Hannibal got 2. He deserved the 2. He played well. And Thiago got 1. Honestly, I don't know how he got it ahead of other people, but he got it. No complaints from me in particular, as he was my captain. And he got a silly yellow card. 4-3 it ended. Great watch. Great for fantasy if you had multiple assets from both sides. Especially for those of you who have Anthony coming off your bench for those 10 points. You are the real winners this week. You and the people who vice-captained Bruno Fernandes. The most disappointing game this week is actually quite simple. At least it is. It just is. Villa 0, Wolves 2. The bottom side versus the number 3 side. I've kept mentioning how Wolves have been improving, and they were just solid in this game. Their strategy was just to counter. So they let Villa put up the pressure, create the chances, but the defense held up. They were solid at the back. Jose Sam made the saves. They made clearances off the line. And then they'll just get a counter, sucker punch, boom, 1-0. That's how Joao Gomez scored off an assist from Armstrong. And then after soaking up an intense amount of pressure towards the end. The ball breaks free. Mane goes, gives the ball to Joao Gomez, who fluffs his pass. Well, it was defended well. But the ball slips through to Rodrigo Gomez. There's so many Gomezes in this team. And 2-0 it ends. So if you had your Watkins, Rodgers, your Cashes, Ponces, Emi Martinez, it was all for naught. And that's how the game ended. 2-0 to Wolverhampton's. They say it's hard to win it's hard to win in Wolverhampton in a rainy night, and it held true. And Wolves have beaten them again at home. So it's crazy. Also, another thing that really happened was that people who score against teams continued scoring against teams. Like Morgan Gibbs-White has scored more goals against Brighton than he has scored against any other team. Since Forest came up, he has scored 5 goals against them. Ridiculous. So Joao Gomez got the 3 bonus points. Mosquera got 2 bonus points. And Jose Sa, for all the saves he made, got 1 bonus point. Also, just before I move on, in case you're wondering why Kelleher didn't play, it's because his partner gave birth to 2 children. I guess twins. And of course, he had to take leave. So I hope you had a good backup keeper, or at least a better one. So when it comes to points, there was only 1 clean sheet. So, goalkeepers didn't do too well. Number 1 was Jose Sa, 8 points. Number 2, Donnarumma, 5 points. Raya, Petrovic, Verbruggen, and Henderson, Darlow all got 3 points each. When it comes to defense, Ait Nouri, 11 points. Saliba, 10. Gabriel, 9. Branthwaite, 9. Ruben, 9. Mosquera, 9. So defense didn't do too badly. And now when it comes to midfield, the top performer was Damsgaard. 2 goals and an assist, and bonus, of course, he got the business done, and he's number 1 this week. Joao Gomez, 14 points. Bruno Fernandes, 13 points. Wilson, 12 points. Anthony, 10 points. Hannibal, 10 points. Iwobi, 10 points. When it comes to strikers, Ekitike, best striker, 15 points. Welbeck, Beto, Mayenda, 9 points. Sesko, 8 points. Let's look at some stats generated from this game week. When Arsenal won the game with Timber's goal, it was the 9th time in the Premier League this season that Arsenal have scored a match-winning goal from a corner. They are now the outright leader by most scored by a team in a single campaign, overtaking Manchester United, who had 8 in 2012-2013. Arsenal's 16 goals from corners in the Premier League this season is a joint most by any side in a single campaign, alongside Oldham in 92-93, West Brom in 2016-2017, and Arsenal themselves in 23-24. And by the end of the season they're going to do better. So just wait for next week. Arsenal have gone up 1-0 from a corner on 9 occasions in the Premier League this season. And this is a joint most by a team, along with Southampton, who did it in 94-95. Tottenham have equaled their longest winless streak in the Premier League, drawn 4 and lost 6, only previously going 10 consecutive games without victory in the competition between January and March of 1994 under Ossie Ardiles. Michael Carrick has earned 23 points in 9 Premier League games as Manchester United manager. He has won 7 and drawn 2, including both spells. This is a joint best total after 9 games by any manager in the competition's history, along with Ange Postecoglou. Give him the contract already. Bruno Fernandes has scored and assisted in 18 different Premier League matches for Manchester United, overtaking David Beckham, who has done it 17 times, and is now only trailing Ryan Giggs, who has 22, and Wayne Rooney, who has 35. 5 is tough, but 22, it can be done. Since the 2021 season, only Teji Savanier has received more red cards in Europe's Big 5 leagues than Crystal Palace defender Maxence Lacroix, who has received 7 in that period. Since the start of December 2025, only Erling Haaland, who has 14, has more goal involvements in the Premier League than Harry Wilson, who has 11. That's been quite a great return for him, and he has not given me any of those returns every time he's on my team. He also picked up a knock, so he may not be available for this game week. Keep that in mind. Liverpool are only the second team in the Premier League history to score 3 goals from corners in the first half of a match, after Manchester United did it against Leicester in 2016. Only John Terry with 41 has more Premier League goals among central defenders, excluding penalties, in the competition than Virgil van Dijk. Virgil van Dijk is having a great run of form. Well, his last 3 games have been incredible. I'm hoping he has a few more games left in him because I've just brought him into my team. Under Unai Emery, Aston Villa have only lost 2 of the 26 Premier League games against opponents starting the day in the relegation zone. They have won 18 and drawn 6, and both of those defeats have come against Wolves. He also refused to shake the manager's hand after the end of the game. Talk about a bitter man. Haaland, as usual, was the most popular captain choice, but his absence created interesting returns because 744,000 people had captained, or rather vice-captained, Bruno Fernandes, and they benefited from that. But the real winners were those who vice-captain Ekitike. 314,000 people had vice-captained him. Semenyo was also a popular vice-captain, and he was vice-captain 349,000. So the numbers are as follows. Fernandes, vice-captain by 744,000. Semenyo, vice-captain by 592,000. Joao Pedro, vice-captain by 394,000. Thiago, vice-captain by 349,000. And Ekitike, vice-captain by 314,000. Vice-captaincy matters. When you think about your captain, think about your vice-captain. So, Virgil van Dijk was the most brought in player this game week, and he was brought in by 715,000, and he returned 7 points, which was a great return. O'Reilly was brought in by 629,000. He got 6 points. Good return. Thiago was brought in by 385,000. 6 points. Szoboszlai, 343,000. 4 points. Harry Wilson brought in by 335,000. 12 points. That was the greatest return of all the players brought in. And O'Reilly missed a good chance. He had a good header. But also, just like Harry Wilson I mentioned earlier, and Rice a little bit earlier, O'Reilly was substituted and he had a knock. So the game week starts tomorrow, so you have to really think twice before bringing him in. When it comes to DEFCON point, for the first time in 17 game weeks, Anderson did not make contributions, which is just what a great run that was. Be back next week. So I'm just going to read to you the top 5. Alderete was a top DEFCON getter with 21 points. Ampadu got 18. Caicedo 16. Ballard 15. Canvo, Ruben Diaz, and 14 points apiece. I think for the first time this season, Damsgaard is the player who got the most points. As usual, Haaland was the most selected player. He also happened to be the most captained. The most vice-captained player was Bruno Fernandes. It just goes to show that not having Haaland this week was maybe the best thing for fantasy. As you can imagine, Liverpool take on Wolves this game week, and Ekitike is the most brought-in player with 263,000. Managers bring him in. Virgil van Dijk is number 2 with 172,000, bring him in. Harry Wilson, people are not fearing the injury, 170,000 to bring him in. Semenyo, 125,000 to bring him in. And Szoboszlai, 95,000 to bring him in. Now, this is all in spite of Wolves defeating Aston Villa, in spite of Wolves drawing with Arsenal. So, it won't surprise you that the most transferred player out is Rodgers. 208,000 have dropped him. Haaland has been dropped by 183,000. Mukiele, oh wow, he's at 4.5 now. Incredible. 124,000 have dropped him. Wirtz, 123,000 have dropped him. Enzo, 84,000 have dropped him. The average of the game week was 53 points. The highest points was 125. Elashka got the most points this game week. They had 125 points. Also, they used their bench boost. In goal, they had Donnarumma, who had 5. Timber, 8. Gabriel, 9. Van Dijk, 7. Aït-Nouri, 11. Captain Bruno Fernandes, 26. Semenyo, 8. Mbeumo, 2. Thiago, 6. Ekitike, 15. Evanilson, 6. Helehe, 0. Van de Ven, 0. Harry Wilson, 12. Anthony, 10. Great bench boost. In our group, we've seen a recovery indeed, because the highest now is 97. Over the poultry, was it 60-something or 70-something? Much better week this week. Nabil Assad, Mr. Echo, is this week's leader. He has 97 points, and Verbruggen is his keeper with 3 on the bench. Van de Ven 0, O'Reilly 6, Gabriel 9, Timber, who came on for Haaland 8, Bruno Fernandes 13, Rice 5, Harry Wilson 12, Ouattara 5, Thiago 6, and Captain Ekitike 30 points. It must have been one of those 344,000 or something, 314,000. That is a great return, and that took him number 1 in group. At this point, I think I have to bring in Ekitike. Number 2 was a two-way tie between Mark Motegi and Ken Kimani, who both got 89. Number 4 was David Mbogwa, who got 86 points. Number 5 is Majestic Lewis, who got 84 points. The least points this week belong to Eddie Olang, manager of Olang All-Stars. Now, this is a set and forget team, but he set it too early and he made mistakes because Wood is his captain and Haaland is his vice captain. So Wood got 0, Haaland got 0. So you can tell that's already done. Then he has Joao Pedro, who had 2. Cunha 5, Reinders 1, Ahmad 1, Verts 0, Virgil van Dijk 7, Goodmanson 2, and Pedro Porro 0. And I said Vicari 1, I hope. Yeah, so that's how he got 19 points. So I don't know. I'm not a fan of reading such teams when they are set and forget teams because it doesn't mean anything. So number 2 is also a set and forget team, but it's I'm not going to read it. They got 22 points. Ayomide got 22 points. Don't Mind got 25. And rounding up the bottom 5 is Richard Madegwa, who got 25 points as well. Most points on the bench this week belongs to David Mbogwa, who got 86 points, and he had 26 points on the bench. That is incredible. So who was on his bench, you wonder? Sanchez 2, Wilson 12, Timber 8, Senesi 4. And I can see he had banked on Aston Villa. So if he just put Wilson and Timber, oh my goodness, he would have done really, really well this week, over 100. But also 86 points, it's great. So I don't even know how to feel bad for you when you have 26 points on your bench and you have 86. Reeve Masime was second with 19 points on the bench. And then Chris Masik and Bruce Lee Abungana had 17 points on the bench, while Stephen Chiari and Peter Dennis round up the top 5 with 16 points on the bench. Alexander Mutune, if you remember our first season, he did really, really well. He had the most goals scored across the board with 6 goals scored by his team. The team with the best midfield is a tie between Franklin Asieme and Joe Mbogo, who had 53 points from the midfield. That is crazy. Ron Chisaka was our best team with the best defense. 41 points from his defense. Well done. When it comes to the teams with the most transfers made, Mike Mbogwa made 6 transfers. Tagana Gatheru and Amos Mwangi, Mark Yosh all tied with 4 transfers made. And in number 5, it is a tie for 3 with Papi Chulo, Charles Kadevillis, Dennis Alubiri, Teddy Mwalo, and Melvin Keter, Edmund Gadumbi, Joel Andebe, Dennis Odara, Michael Maina, Vibav Naik, and Victor Nyabola all made 3 transfers this week. When it comes to best transfer outcomes, Buona G, manager of Kaiser Soze, got 22 points better than had he left his team how it was. Number 2 is LED, who got 17, along with Nabil Assad and Ken Kimani, who all got 17 points and was 17 points better than had they not done anything. Ano Midunga got 14 points from the transfers he made as well. On the other end, it goes hand in hand. You make the most transfers, you lose the most points. Mike Mbogwa lost 16 points from the transfers made. Tagana Gatheru lost 11 points from the transfers made. Jeremy Yego, negative 10. His team was 10 points off from had he left the team as it was. Dan Midea, 9 points. And Dennis Odera, negative 8 points. Collins Kogi has the most valuable team, and his team is valued at 106.5. Angola Nayo Hijana Imama, 96.8, and his team has the lowest team value. Texas Tens has added 0.6 to his team value. Joel Andebe has lost 0.5 in value to his team. When it comes to the most differential pick in our group this week, that belongs to Ait Nuri, who was chosen by only 1% of us. And so 1% of us means 2 people chose him. And those 2 managers got 11 points. The second most was Anthony, who was chosen by 1%, 10 points. Then you have Iwobi, chosen by 1%, 10 points. Then Saliba, rounding up the top 5 with 8% and 10 points. And, the top 5 is Otiomondi with Mosquera, 1% for 9 points. David Bogwa has risen the most in the global rankings from our group. He has jumped up 921,000 positions. Ayomide has dropped 1 million position right a change. Otiomondi is really doing the business. He has been rising up for 10 weeks in a row. 10, I think that must be the most. 10, do you know 10 weeks is like Gameweek 18? And then Brian Ibrahim is now on the 7th week in a row of doing nothing. That is tough. Hang in there. In our table, Nabil Assad, of course with his 97 points, has risen and jumped 20 positions. Khalid Mohammed done the opposite and dropped 31 positions. So I just wanted to check what his points were. He got 31 points. He got 31 points and dropped 31 positions. That's kind of poetic. Just listen to this. Listen to how lucky you all were, because 101 of us had chosen Haaland be our captain. 101 of us. That is more than half. And you were all saved by your vice captain. Unless, of course, you're Eddie Lang, who Haaland was his vice captain. So Bruno was chosen by 23. Igor Thiago by 10 of us. 7 of us chose Joao Pedro. Another 7 chose Bruno. 6 somehow chose Palmer. I think it was a wrong time to have faith in Palmer. Semenyo was chosen by 6 of us. Saka by another 6. Gyokeres by 4. Gabriel by 4, and that seemed to be a good decision. Ekitike by 3. Well done, guys. That was great. Salah still has fans out there. Chosen by 3. Rice chosen by 3. Wood chosen by 2. Watkins chosen by 2. Voltemada, Hudson-Odoi, Grealish, Foden, Gakpo, Verts, Raul, Wilson, Evan Nilsson, chosen by 1. Apichuno, who chose Wilson, well done to you. Looking at our league table, number 1 to 5 remains unchanged. Arnold Midonga is holding on to number 1. We're moving into the final third of the season. 1740 points. Alan Muchangi has 1703. Apichulo, 1682. Number 4, Komsi Komsal Leon Motia, 80 points for 1681 points. Mask on Franklin Asiema, 1675 points. A new number 6, Madagani Kihoro, jumping up the table, 72 points and 1652 points. Charles Cadavelis is making a comeback, 77 points with 1643 points. John Mwangemi, Woolies Billionaires, the Chelsea fan, 79 points for 1642 points. Amos Langat, 1639 points with 50 points, so he's the one who's really dropped. And then we have a new number 10, and the new number 10 is Control-Alt-Delete, clever name, managed by Ashwin Lee, 1636 points. So 100 points from number 1, who has 1740, is now number 9, who has 1639. So the gap is getting even smaller. So now us guys, people like me who are number 72, we are out of the running. It's over unless we really get miracle calls the next 10 weeks or something. So when it comes to the bottom of the table, we have the bottom 3 who are people who joined late. And the last has 264 points. That's Bruce Lee Bungana. Marcus Peters has 335. And Mark Mora has 801. Now, from people who started from day 1, you have Murunga who's last with 1001. Mike Mbugwa with 1019. And that makes up the bottom 5 of our table. As we are looking forward to the next game week, let you all know that the next game week is tomorrow. So why is it tomorrow? Because the FA Cup continues this weekend. And so I have to get fixtures out of the way. For some reason, I've just only remembered now that it is a World Cup year. And I'm just seeing what's happening with the state of the world. I'm like, will people go to America? Or Canada or Mexico? I hope we do not devolve into a World War III. I hope that this situation can be resolved as peacefully as it can. So the games resume tomorrow, and it'll be a kickoff with 4 fixtures on the first day. So Bournemouth take on Brentford. Bournemouth drew last time out, 1-1 with Sunderland, while Brentford played a thriller and a classic. Now, I don't think Kelleher will be back if he wasn't there just 2 days ago. Or maybe he was there for the birth. I don't know. He may or may not be there. And if he isn't there, and that goalkeeper is the one, you might want to rethink your defense. However, they were a bit unlucky with the own goals. The last time these two met, Shada had a hat-trick and Semenyo scored for Bournemouth. So I would say Shada is a good shout for Brentford. When looking at the recent head-to-head, Bournemouth have won 5 of 5 encounters against Bournemouth. So 4-1, 2-0, 2-1, 3-2, and 2-1. So more often than not, it'll be both teams will score. So if you're going to get Brentford players, Shada, Thiago, Damsgaard. If you're going to get Bournemouth players, I would say Ryan, Tavernier, and Evanilson. Everton take on Burnley. The last time these guys met, it was a 0-0 draw. Apart from that, Everton have won 4 of the last 5 games, meaning that Everton are favourites. Everton beat Newcastle last time out away from home, and Everton have an incredible away record. Ever since Moyes took over, Arsenal have got 45 points and they have 41, making them the second best away side in the Premier League since Moyes came back. Now, Everton at home, so that's a bit of a different story. But this might be a good time to have the defense since they are favoured. I would say Ndiaye and maybe Pickford or Branthwaite. And if you want to gamble with Barry or Beto, you can do that. On the Burnley end, Fleming, Mejbri, and Anthony are the players I'd recommend. They had a great showing over the weekend, and it will be an entertaining game at the very least. Leeds take on Sunderland at home. Now, the last time they played them in the Premier League, it was a 1-1 draw, with Adingra scoring and Calvert-Lewin scoring. Adingra has since left Sunderland, and Calvert-Lewin is still there. Calvert-Lewin could have beaten Manchester City by himself. He was very wasteful in front of goal, and they will be hoping that he has found his shooting boots. Sunderland also drew against, who did they draw again? Bournemouth, 1-1, and they will be looking to do better. Now, if you believe in Leeds, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Stark, and maybe Ruif. If you're looking at Sunderland players, Mayenda, Enzo Lefebvre, and Xhaka. I know Xhaka is back, so he will begin to reassert his dominance in the squad as he had been in the first half of the season. Wolves take on Liverpool. Wolves are going down, that's for sure. But they are not going down easy. I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now. Rob Edwards has them firing, and I think should he remain their manager, I think he would bring them up quickly. And I also hope that, unlike Leicester, I hope they have relegation clauses in their contract so that they don't go bust. Anywho, Wolves were very impressive and they beat Villa last time out. Jose was incredible between 2 sticks. Now, Liverpool, on the other hand, were even more impressive by dismantling and improving West Ham 5-2. Now, Ekitike was great and he looked amazing. McAllister is on some sneaky good form. Van Dijk is also now he's not sneaky anymore, just good form. And those are the 3 I would recommend from them. From Wolves, it will be whichever Gomez's you want and all the Buenos that you want. And within that, you have like a selection of 5 players. So just listen to the last 5 encounters. Liverpool win 2-1. Liverpool win 2-1. Liverpool win 2-1. Liverpool win 2-0. Liverpool win 3-1. So basically, odds are that this might be 2-1. Aston Villa. Now we're looking at Wednesday. Take on Chelsea. Both teams are coming off losses, but the nature of both losses is different. Aston Villa were just beaten. They couldn't score. They were unable to score. Chelsea, the 10 men hurt them a bit, and Arsenal the best defense. So I don't know. It's hard to be negative about that result when you lose to the champions elect. Yeah. Anyway, if you heard a little earlier, Rodgers was the most removed player. So I don't encourage you to get into Aston Villa. They're super inconsistent right now. But should you want to, it is still Watkins, Rodgers, and Buendia. If you're getting Chelsea players, I would say Reece James, because he just seems to perform. Then I'd say Joao Pedro, and reluctantly Palmer. Aston Villa have lost 2, drawn 2, and won 1 in the last 5. While Chelsea have won 2, drawn 2, and lost 1. And their head-to-head is balanced with 2 Chelsea wins, 2 Villa wins, and 1 draw. But out of all of these games, there's only 1 clean sheet. And there's never been a clean sheet at Villa's home. So it's more likely that both teams will score, and it's more likely that having a defender, unless it's a scoring one, will be a bad idea. Brighton take on Arsenal and all. The haters will be watching and hoping for a Brighton victory. In their last 5 encounters, the best result Brighton has gotten against Arsenal is a draw. And both results were 1-1. Now, outside that, in the last 5, they've lost. Arsenal have won 3, Brighton have lost 3, and they've drawn twice. So Arsenal are favourites. Arsenal just came off a great game against Chelsea. They won, and they'll be looking to continue. Now, Rice picked up a knock, and it'll be interesting to see whether he recovers or how serious it was or wasn't, When it comes to recent form, Brighton lost their last 3 games. They've won the last 2 games, but they've also lost 3 games in a row before winning their last 2. So you could say their form is turning the corner. This will be a great test for them. Arsenal, on the other hand, won their last 2 games, but have won 3 out of their last 5 and drawn 2 out of their last 5. Now, should you be believing in Brighton? Welbeck, Gomez, and Mitoma will be your favorites in this encounter. Now, given how the last game went, Saliba, Gabriel, and possibly, let's say, Saka will be your best bets in this game. Arsenal lead with defense, so you'll be hoping for defensive returns. But if you're looking towards the top, good look at Gyokeres or Saka. Fulham take on West Ham. West Ham were beaten last time out, while Fulham defeated Spurs last time out. Fulham will be looking for more of the same. It will be magic. That was a really great goal. West Ham will be happy that they were able to score. Some of it will be looking to be better than he was in that game. He could have scored at least 1 goal. Fulham have the better head-to-head record, having won 3 of their last 5 encounters, drawing 1 and losing 1. Now, if you believe in West Ham, the first thing to know is that West Ham have won 2, drawn 2, and lost 1 in their last 5, so that's not bad. Fulham have won their last 3 games and lost 2 before that. So they're in ascendancy. If you're picking from this squad, if you're looking at West Ham players, I would say Somerville, Bowen, and Souček. If you're looking at Fulham, Raul Jimenez, Iwobi, and now, in case Wilson does not play, it might open an opportunity for Bob to do more. So those are the 3 I would recommend. Manchester City take on Nottingham Forest. Now, as you can imagine, Manchester City have won 4 of their last 5 and lost 1 to them. And in the last game, Reinders and Sheki were the goal scorers. And the game before that, it was Lewis and Vardiol. So your guess is as good as mine. It doesn't seem to be a consistent scorer. Like I said previously, Gibbs White scored a beautiful goal in the last encounter. If you're looking at the recent head-to-head, Man City have won all 5 of their last 5 games. Forest have lost 3 in a row now, won 1 and drawn 1. So they're not in great form. That is why they fired their coach. Now, when looking forward, I would say Aït-Nouri or Nunes in terms of defense, or Donnarumma in case you're looking to get rid of Raya. And then Semenyo and possibly Mamouche. Now, O'Reilly might be injured. He might be injured, so we don't know. On the other end, it's Morgan Gibbs-White, Igor Jesus, and maybe Elliot Anderson if you're just looking for DEFCON points, because if they're to get anything out of the results, he needs to get a lot of DEFCON points for them to be successful anyway. Moving on from that, you have Manchester United versus Newcastle, which will be the marquee game of the game week. Now, when it comes to recent form, Manchester United have won 4 of their last 5 and drawing 1, while Newcastle have won 3 and lost 2. Newcastle are a bit unpredictable right now. They're a bit shaky, but should you believe in their ability to win, you will be looking at, I think, Tonali, Gordon, and Elanga. I think they haven't figured out what they want to do with Voltemada. They play him at the back and they play him at the top. They haven't figured out what his strongest role is. On the other end, it's quite simple. You have Sesko, Bruno Fernandes, and Cunha. Those are the 3 Manchester United players. When looking at their head-to-head, it goes like this. Newcastle have won 2. Actually, they've won 3 of their last 5 encounters, while Manchester United have won 2. So basically, either side wins. There are no draws. The last time they played Dogu scored the winner. It must have been when he had that streak in December, when he was looking like the best left back in the world. They need him back. Final game of the game week will see Tottenham take on Crystal Palace. Now, like you heard me saying earlier, Tottenham are currently on a 10-game winless run, which includes having lost 4 games in a row. They have had horrible injuries that I don't think any other team outside maybe Chelsea and Manchester City would be able to survive. Now, so that contributes to them. Crystal Palace have won 2, drawn 1, and lost 2 of their last 5 games. And they both lost in the previous game week. So for me, this is a game that both teams need, and they both need to defeat each other, which is impossible. But whoever will come out with a victory, of course Spurs need the victory more, but it will do wonders for Crystal Palace should they win as well. Should you believe that Spurs have what it takes to win this game, you would possibly be thinking that you need to have Kolo Muani, I think Van de Ven, and maybe Xavi Simons. That sounds so horrible. Only Van de Ven sounds like he can score. From the other team, you have Strand Larsen, Johnson, and Munoz. Of course, Lacroix will be unavailable, and given that they have no real replacement since Kay left, I'm scared for their defense. But those are the 3 I would recommend. When it comes to captain choices, given Brentford's record, I think Thiago or Damsgaard could be a good captain against Bournemouth, or Evan Nilsson. When it comes to Burnley, maybe Branthwaite or Pickford, but don't do that. You could also choose Fleming or Mejbri. Leeds, you could choose Mayenda or Dominic Calvert-Lewin. For Liverpool, Ekitike would be the best captain choice in this fixture. Or maybe a Gomez. Which one? I'll let you, but don't do that. Ekitike is a better captain choice. Aston Villa versus Chelsea. Joao Pedro, Palmer, Watkins, Rodgers. Brighton versus Arsenal. It's hard to pick an offensive player, but given the possibility of Rice's injury, you might find that this is a game Merino comes in and just does the business. But I'll go stable and say Gabriel or Saka. And from the Brighton end, Welbeck or Diego Gomez. Fulham, Raul Jimenez or Iwobi. West Ham, Bowen. Man City versus Nottingham Forest. At this point, it isn't clear whether Haaland will be back, so I would not choose him. I would go for Semenyo. Newcastle versus Manchester United. You have Bruno, Sesko, Cunha, and then possibly Gordon as well. Spurs versus Crystal Palace. Bruno Larsen, Sarr could be something. And on the other end, could be the kind of game Van de Ven comes and scores goals, But really don't choose a Tottenham captain in this game. Looking at the global league, Luka Ortulan is number 1 globally, and they have 1865 points. They got 83 points this week. Their team name is Mirinda. Let me read to you their team so that in case you're struggling and you need to do better, maybe you can just copy this team. Raya in goal, 3 points. Virgil van Dijk, 7 points. Senesi, 4 points. Gabriel, 9 points. Mbumo, 2. Rice, 5. Wilson, 12. Shada, 7. Captain Bruno Fernandes, 26. Igor Thiago, 6. Krupi Jr., 2. It must be noted that his original captain was Haaland, or rather, Haaland was in his team as well, but he got substituted and Krupi Jr. came on with 2 points. And they have 1865 points. No one in our table is close enough to that. We're at minimum of 200 points behind Luka. So that is a gap between us and the world. Looking at the FPL FDR, Arsenal take on Brighton, Everton, then they have the blank week for the final, then they have Bournemouth, and then Manchester City, the match which will decide the season, maybe. Aston Villa have Chelsea, Man United, West Ham, Forest, and Sunderland. Now, in theory, for Arsenal, their defense should start to improve, but they can still concede. They have not been great at the back. Aston Villa have Chelsea, Man United, West Ham, Forest, and Sunderland. At this point, Aston Villa are unpredictable, so I just approach it with caution. They could beat all of these teams. They could draw all of these matches. They could lose all of this. That is where Villa are right now. Honestly, it's not surprising if you tell me Aston Villa will beat Chelsea. They beat them last time. Can they beat Manchester United? They absolutely can. Can they beat West Ham? Yes, they can. Can they beat Forest? Yes, they can. Can they beat Sunderland? Of course they can. But can they lose all of them? Absolutely. Bournemouth have Brentford, Burnley, Man United, Arsenal, New. These are difficult fixtures. Here I am bringing in Hill into my team. What was I thinking? Maybe, let's see. I think I'm just going to have them until, I'm going to have Hill until they play Arsenal. Brentford have Bournemouth, Wolves, Leeds, Everton, and Fulham. Honestly, this is why I have Thiago in my team. And I hope it proves to be a great decision. Their fixtures look winnable and they're in good form. Now, maybe not having a defender, but maybe the Damsgaards of the world and Shada might be worth having. Brighton have Arsenal, Sunderland, Liverpool, Burnley, and Tottenham. These are difficult fixtures. But, well, let's be more honest. Arsenal and Liverpool are the most difficult fixtures here. Sunderland, away from home, can be tricky, but they can definitely beat Burnley and Tottenham. But I could also see them getting a result. You see, Bournemouth are like, in my mind, are like a better Bournemouth, where on their day, they can absolutely beat anybody in the world. And so, if it's their day against Arsenal this game week, they can absolutely beat Arsenal. Now, Burnley take on Everton, Bournemouth, Fulham, Brighton, and Nottingham Forest. These are not top-tier teams, and Burnley have been very competitive. I have been a hater on them, but I can't deny what I'm seeing. And Fleming and Mejbri could be good people to have if you're looking for low-cost players into your team. Chelsea have Aston Villa, Newcastle, Everton, Man City, and Man United. Get out of Chelsea players. They have been inconsistent when they had an easy fixture. Don't stick with them through this difficult fixture, unless they're the type of team that plays opposite. But they've just lost to Chelsea, so they're not, they've just lost to Arsenal, so they're not that type of team. Now, Crystal Palace take on Tottenham, Leeds, and they have a blank week, and then they have Newcastle and West Ham. Honestly, these are good fixtures for them to reset and build it up. Let's just see what happens. Munoz might be worth having, honestly. Everton have Burnley, then Arsenal, then Chelsea, then Brentford and Liverpool. With Everton, they can beat anyone and lose anyone. They can draw all of their games. They can lose all of the games. I don't know. I'm kind of jaded with Everton right now. Their calling card was their defense, but they're not that good anymore. They barely keep a clean sheet. So I'm just going to say enter Everton at your own peril. Fulham have West Ham, Forest, Burnley, Liverpool, and Brentford. They are currently in the winning streak, and I think that should continue against West Ham and Nottingham Forest. Now, you need to observe the Harry Wilson situation and adjust your plans accordingly if you have him or if you're thinking of bringing him in. It could be worth having their players here because outside Liverpool, I think they can beat all the rest. Leeds have Sunderland, Crystal Palace, Brentford, Man United, and Wolves. This might be another good time to bring in Leeds players, starting with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That could be a good fixture set for them. Liverpool have Wolves, Tottenham, Brighton, Fulham, Everton. And I won't lie to you, this is why I brought in 2 Liverpool players. And by the end of the next week, I might have 3 Liverpool players. I have brought in Van Dijk and Ekitike because I believe Liverpool should really profit from these next round of fixtures. Honestly, this game week is what's going to tell me whether I bring in McAllister or Szoboszlai. That's it. That's a decision I'm grappling with for the next game week. That's how much I believe in the next run of games. Anyway, Man City have Forest, and then they have West Ham, and then a blank week, and then Chelsea and Arsenal. So honestly, after that blank week, which they will play Arsenal in that blank week, they have Chelsea and then Arsenal again. So it's going to be quite interesting. So up until the blank week, it will be worth it to have Forest and West Ham players. And then after that, I don't know. Man United have Newcastle, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Leeds, and Chelsea. Manchester United have not been defeated since Carrick took over. And so just continue believing in them until you have proof otherwise. Newcastle have Manchester United, Chelsea, Sunderland, Crystal Palace, and Bournemouth. Newcastle are in questionable form, and then add in Europe. They never tend to do well when they have Europe. So Man United and Chelsea might be tricky fixtures for them, and then it'll get easier after that. So maybe look into their players after the Chelsea game, because I'm personally looking at Joao. Nottingham Forest have Man City, then they have Fulham, Tottenham, Aston Villa, and Burnley. Honestly, these are not outside the City game. The difficulty reduces, and they could save their season in their next 5 games, actually. Spurs have Crystal Palace, Liverpool, Forest, Sunderland, and Brighton. They're winless in 10 for a reason. They're mentally down. they will need something, but I don't know what will trigger it, because I look at these fixtures and I don't know what will trigger it. So it's just hoping for the best. I wouldn't encourage you to even sniff their players. Sunderland have Leeds, Brighton, Newcastle, Tottenham, and Aston Villa. Sunderland are safe and maybe they have relaxed. Their form has been a bit patchy, and they have 2 home games in these fixtures, so I wouldn't quite go into them. And then Mukiele is out and he has been vital at the back. So unless you can figure out if it's like a Diarra or a Mayenda or a Enzolefe that you want, stay away from them. West Ham have Fulham, Man City, Villa, Wolves, and Crystal Palace. City and Villa will be, well, City will be a tough game. The rest are all winnable. I can see them beating Fulham. I can see them causing trouble for Villa, maybe even getting a draw there. I could see them beating Wolves and Crystal Palace. So I don't know, Bowen, just get Bowen and close your eyes. Wolves have Liverpool, Brentford, blank, and then West Ham and Leeds. Wolves at the bottom, but then they've finally fixed themselves. If they had started the season the way they've started this year, they would be doing much better. And we would be looking at them with more respect. So I would say, if you can figure out which Gomez or which Bruno you want, or if it's Mane, you're in for something. But otherwise, just know that they're not a team you bet against. And with that, we are at the end of the podcast. I hope you're all well. See you on the pitch tomorrow. Bye.